Welcome to the show today. Today we're going to be talking about how to ace your budget debt-free. We have Mr. Joseph Hogue, worked in corporate finance and real estate before starting a career in investment analysis. He has appeared on Bloomberg, CNBC, and led a team of equity analysts for a venture capital research firm. Joseph currently has a YouTube channel called Let's Talk Money. Let's welcome Mr. Joseph to the show. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Brandy, thanks for having me. Love being able to share this with people.
Yeah, so we haven't really had a lot of people teach us about budget on our show or show us different ways about budget. So this should be very exciting for our audience and also for me because it's my first time actually asking these questions and getting some answers, and hopefully it can help me too as well as the audience. So how did you get into this business in the beginning? Like, how did this path actually started?
Sure. Well, like most people, I think I got out of college and got out of the Marine Corps actually, and basically just jumped into the corporate world, that 9 to 5, because that's just what you do, right? And I, like most people, I hated my job. I hated the lack of control you really feel over your income and everything else. So started to kind of develop my online assets and really what I could do to start my own business and my own online business. And it really went from there. 2014, I started the blogs. 2017, I kind of shifted into YouTube, and loved it ever since. And it's really allowed me to share a lot of the things that I've learned in personal finance and in investments throughout my career over the last 20 years as an investment analyst, and gives me that sense of control, plus that sense that I'm actually helping people. I'm not just stuck somewhere in corporate finance, a nameless cog somewhere in the machine there.
Awesome. So from there, working in the corporate world, what made you have a more interest on this side of the field outside the corporate world?
Sure. Well, I think a lot of it just came from my own experience. Not only my experience, managing other people's investments, but my own experience in my own personal finance as well. One of the biggest mistakes, I guess, I could say that I had was, there in my early 20s, just newly minted, working in corporate finance, and like I said, I hated it. All I could think of was dreaming of early retirement. Right? I was financial independence, early retirement before FIRE was even a thing. Right? Way back in the late 90s. So I was saving everything I could. I had some real estate properties that I rented out and managed those. I had another part-time job as a bartender outside my regular job. I was working, 60, 70 hours a week, saving everything I could just for that, that promise of financial freedom and early retirement. And what I found was that, I would get so burnt out in just saving everything, having no fun, absolutely, that every 6 months or so, I'd just go on a spending spree. I would burn out. I would go on a spending spree, and it would basically just set me back. I was 2 steps forward, 1 step back with everything I had saved. And so, and just talking with other people, I found that so many people do something like this, or commit some of these other just heinous mistakes of personal finance. And I felt like, if we can just pool our knowledge, share those common mistakes, then how much better would people be if they could not commit some of them, or maybe commit fewer of those.
Wow. So now that you're on this path on helping others with budgeting and things like that, how do one go about setting their budget?
Sure. Well, it starts with that honesty in what you need, what you want out of life, and really the goals. I see so many people set out with a budget or with an investing plan, and so they say I want to save this much, or they give themselves a $1 million goal or something, right, for investments, but they have no idea what they want to do with that. They have no idea what retirement looks like to them. They don't have a mental picture around their goals. And so basically it's kind of like leaving on a road trip with no destination. You're just driving aimlessly, right? So what I see so often is too many people set out on that road trip, and they run out of gas because they don't know where they're going. They just drive in circles. Um, and so what I tell people first is you really need to have that clear mental picture of your goals, what you want to do with this money and why you're saving. You develop that mental picture, all the way down to the details, like what are you going to be doing every day? Who's the people around you? And not only is that going to give you an idea of exactly how much money you're going to need, because a lot of people, you might be surprised at how little you need to actually save to meet those goals. But it's also going to act as your motivation, right? When saving gets tough, when you really want to go out on that shopping spree, you can take out that mental picture and just relive that scenario, and that's going to help you motivate yourself to keep saving instead of making some of those mistakes that we all make. So that's really where you got to start, with that mental picture and that goal to work for, that clear goal. From there, again, it comes from the balance of treating yourself good right now, enjoying your money, enjoying your life, but also planning for that retirement and those goals. It's does you no good to be miserable for 30 years just to be mildly happy for the next 30 years. Why are people living like that? So I think those are the two big ones, is finding that balance for you, reaching towards those goals, and having clear goals to motivate you. And then after that, it's really just kind of the details. Once you've got those two big things set up, then saving becomes easier. The motivation and keeping on that path just becomes so much easier.
That's kind of cool. So, like, what are the ingredients that we should put in our budget? What are the things, and I call them ingredients, as what are the line items, if you will, that we should put in the budget for, the average household, for like a nice middle class family? What are the ingredients that we think you need,
Sure.
that we need in that?
Sure. Well, I think I like to start with what I call turning your budget upside down, right? And this is basically just taking your savings out first. Okay. Everybody knows, can get an idea of about how much they want to save for those goals. They know, how much they need to reach those goals. So you've got an idea of how much you need to save each month. Well, the problem is, so many people, they plan their budget out with their income at the top, then they take out all their expenses, their current expenses. And what happens a lot of times is it matches up, it lines up completely. Their income just covers their expenses. And so there's really no motivation to save. Yeah, they're not putting much money away. They're not saving or investing much, but hey, they're covered right now. And even if they are able to save a little bit, then there's very little motivation to save more or save enough for those goals. So what I like to do is move that savings part up to the top. Take it right out of your income as soon as your check hits your checking account. Then you take that money out, and then that's going to force you to take a harder look at your budget. Take a harder look at what you're spending your money on throughout that month, and maybe make some of those cuts that you wouldn't have otherwise. So that's number one. Number two is budgeting in those infrequent items. Okay. Because one of the biggest mistakes, one of the biggest pitfalls I see so many people fall into is they don't budget for, the car needing a new transmission, or even the stuff that is going to come around, but it only comes around maybe every 3 months or every 6 months, like those property taxes or something like that. So, and basically what happens is you get to that, you've budgeted down to zero on your budget. So you don't have any money left over. You don't really have much of a savings or an emergency fund you can pull from. And those emergency expenses, or those infrequent items, just push them over the top, right? Maybe they have to take money out of their investments, which is completely frustrating and disappointing to have to see your portfolio, your investments shrink like that. And really it causes a lot of people to be disappointed so much that they just stop investing altogether. So you really need to budget for those infrequent and those emergency items. And what you can do here is you're never going to get all those into, down to the penny. But what you can do is just look through your last year's credit card statements, your bank account statements, and find those things that didn't come up every month, but maybe came up every 3 months, every 6 months, or those emergency spending items that you couldn't plan for. So you're going to add all those up for a year, and then divide those by 12 to get kind of a nice monthly amount that you should be saving, just in case these things come up again this year. It's going to give you a little bit of cushion. Obviously, you're going to start seeing your savings or your emergency fund grow a little bit while you're waiting for these things to happen. And the temptation is going to be to spend it. You've got extra money in your budget, but you've got to be, saving for these what if scenarios. So that's definitely
Right.
number two. Number three, I would say is try a spending challenge. You know, a lot of people, these are really popular online, and I see a lot of people, they'll just stop spending on everything, everything for a month, just to see, how it feels. And of course, it doesn't feel good. It does not feel great to cut your spending all the way down to the bone. Basically, you're sitting in your one room apartment doing nothing all month. And so people, people get dissuaded to do that, and they get bored. What I like to say is, just pick maybe one or two things out of your budget, one or two discretionary things, like maybe even cable TV during the summer, maybe different things that you don't necessarily need, and cut those out for a month, a month, maybe 2 months. And what this is going to do is, first, it takes between 8 to 12 weeks to build a habit, right, or to break a bad one. So, over those 8 to 12 weeks where you're not spending on something, you're not, going out every week or every day or every couple of days to the restaurants, or, you're not using the cable TV, then you're going to reinforce that, that habit change, right? Uh, Also, though, it's going to show you, what you really didn't miss. You're going to get to the end of those 2 months. And I think a lot of people are surprised at which things out of their budget they really didn't miss much. So it's a great way to clear up extra space in your budget when you really don't know maybe where you can cut or what you can cut.
And you were speaking as like cutting certain parts of your budget. So if someone has a current budget, how do they manage an existing budget, and how would you go in and try to like take some things off or add some things on if someone has a budget but it's not working for them?
Sure, sure. Well, like I said, I would first try. And if you don't quite know how much you should be saving, or if your goals say you should be saving $500 a month, and you obviously can't make that, then start with saving $50 a month. Start with saving $100 a month, at least that. Um, that's really the bare minimum of what people should be saving and investing for their goals, no matter what their goals are, really. So just move that up and take that out of their income, and then yeah, there's a couple of ways you can kind of categorize or list out your expenses. One way is obviously, by most important. Okay, so obviously your mortgage or your rent, your car payments, things like that would be up at the top, and then list, all the way down in under those, the things by, how much you really need them, with that daily 34-ounce gulp of Pepsi or whatever, would be probably one of the last things, right? Something like that. And then you just start from the bottom up. What things out of your budget do you need to cut to be able to make that budget work, and to be able to save that money? So that's one thing. Another way you can list those out is in order of price, or in order of cost. So this would be, starting with the lowest items on the top, and then all the way down to the highest items. And obviously that's going to give you, by cutting out the highest items that you can, that's going to give you the most bang for your buck, right? When you're cutting out of your budgets. Now, obviously, a lot of those big ticket items, like your rent, like your car payment, things like that, you're not going to be able to cut. But by working through those one at a time, on the from the highest to the lowest, you're going to find a few of the big ticket items that maybe you can cut. Maybe you do take a month off from driving your car around. You drop the insurance on it, or or you save on gas, and all the other little things that come with a car, car expenses, and you see how it goes. Maybe you take the bike a little bit more, or public transportation. See how it works. Take that spending challenge for 1 month to see how much you can save, and whether it's worth balancing that convenience on it.
That's cool. So when is a good time to apply for a loan, or maybe just use money already saved? Which one is best for a family based on income? What is a good time to take out a loan, or not at all?
Sure, sure. Well, it really depends on kind of what you can get. Right? What's the saying, that banks are great for giving you money if you can prove that you don't need it, right? Everyone that has those great credit scores and doesn't really need the money, they get loans, as much as they want, for almost next to nothing right now. In fact, interest rates are at historic lows. So, it's, if you can get a lower rate loan, maybe on a home equity line of credit, or a refinance, something like that, then that money can be very well spent, either in investments, or yeah, just pampering yourself just a little bit. Again, we get back to the idea of you need to enjoy your life right now while you're planning for the future. Generally, though, I think people need to balance what they want that money for with what it's going to cost them. If you're getting that money just for a shiny new car when maybe a little bit older car would do just as well, then I think you have to balance that. If you need a loan for the necessities like your car, like your maybe to cover tuition expenses, things like that, those kinds of necessities. And I think a loan would be a great idea. If you need a loan to cover the living expenses, like your rent, your car payment, things like that, then you really need to work on one of the two sides of the equation, right? You need to work either on increasing your income with maybe a side hustle or a part-time job for a little bit, or you need to lower your expenses because if you're having to take out loans on a weekly or a monthly basis just to cover those basic living expenses, then something's got to give. You can't just keep on borrowing that money every week or every month.
That's true. That's true. Because I was going to ask you, um, what can we do to increase our budget and our savings? And you kind of hit on that a little bit about how we just kind of minimize our way from just not getting so much into debt and taking on new loans and probably doing something else. What would be
Sure.
a better way for us to kind of save a little bit more and budget a little bit better at our current state? That way, it can help us in our future endeavors.
Mhm. Sure. Well, a couple things. I mean, one, I really think a lot of people need to look at both, like I said, both sides of the equations. I think so many people they just look singularly at their expenses, at their budget, and say, okay, what do I need to cut? What can I cut? And the honest truth is, a lot of times there's not a whole lot you can cut. If you're making that minimum wage or you're just barely scraping by, there's not going to be a whole lot you can cut from your budget. So yeah, take a hard look at the budget, see if you can cut any of the stuff, use a spending challenge to maybe free up a little bit of space for the next month or two. But also look at that income side. There's so many ways to make an extra income, and it doesn't mean taking out a whole second job, but just maybe a side hustle for a few weeks or maybe a couple of months, just something to get you over that edge. And especially for the people that are having to go weekly or every month to maybe the payday loan store or the pawn shop to get out those high interest loans. Those basically just keep you in that cycle, that debt cycle, that trap where, if you're paying 15, 20, 300% interest, there's no way you ever get out of that. So you need to, just spend 2 months, 3 months, whatever you need to do over that short term to get out of that cycle, be able to be, self-sufficient in your income and your expenses. And that alone is going to save you money. If you get out of that cycle of needing a payday loan or something like that, some of those high interest loans to cover your living expenses. I mean, that's, once you're out of that cycle and you're living just on your income, that's an extra $100 a month or so or more that you're going to be saving every month. So super important, imperative that people kind of get out of that short-term debt cycle.
Awesome. So the magical question everyone wants to know is, how do one becomes debt free?
Mhm. Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? It's I think a lot of it is kind of what we've been talking about in that those basic ideas of budgeting. Making sure everything comes out, taking your savings out first, but then also how you repay your debt, how you repay it. You can. There's a couple of different ways that are real popular. One's called the avalanche method. One's called the debt snowball method, and one of those. And I always get the two confused as far as which one is which on the details. But so the avalanche method is you take all your debts and you rank them by interest rate, right? So the highest interest rates on the top, lowest interest rates on the bottom. So you've got a mortgage at 6%, a car loan at 10%, and a credit card bill at 15%. So you would put your credit card bill first, your car loan second, and then third would be your mortgage, right? And now, obviously, you're still going to have to pay monthly payments on each of those, that minimum monthly. But then anything you can save, immediately and extra, you put it towards that highest one on your list, right? Here would be the credit cards. Okay. And what this does is it gets you to pay off those high interest loans faster, whether they be credit cards or payday loans or personal loans, whatever. And again, just like getting out of that cycle of debt, that means you're going to be saving more and more money once you get rid of those high interest loans, right? If your credit card is costing you, $50 a month in interest, just paying that off is gonna free up $50 more a month, every month to pay on some of these other debts, or just to have fun, or just to save, right? So you start with those highest interest rate loans. The other method there, the snowball method, is listing your debts by lowest amount first. Okay, so if your credit card, let's say your car payment is, you got $500 left to pay on that. Your credit card, you got $1,000 to pay on that, and then your home loan, you've got maybe $10,000 left to pay on that. So you would list your car loan first, $500 to pay left, your credit card, and then your home loan, right? In order of least amount you owe down to the highest. And what this does, again, you make your minimum payments, but then you pay extra on those least amounts, right? And what this does is just hugely motivating, right? It's not going to save you a lot more money like paying off those high interest rate loans first, but it's just so motivating to see those debts drop off of your list, right? If you're down under $1,000, $2,000 left, you still owe on one of those debts, maybe that car loan that you're still paying on, just it can take 2 or 3 months of really spending, or really watching your budget, really focusing on adding extra money and spending that, or paying that off. And yeah, you see those debts falling off of your list there. It's motivating to keep you going and to keep you saving.
Wow. Okay. So now we definitely going to tackle that so we can all be debt free. So before we let you go, tell us a little bit about your show on YouTube. Let's Talk Money. You have, I believe, the last time I checked, was over 300,000 subscribers on the channel. How did you grow that channel so fast? And what's the next steps for you?
Sure. Well, we just hit 363,000 subscribers today. A great community, and really, I think that's a lot of it. Is just treating it like a community. Going into each video, thinking that pretty much you're talking to tens of thousands of people on the other side of that camera, and really building that connection. We do 3 videos a week. I do a live stream on Sunday to get that chat back and forth with with everyone in the community. So it's just a great way to share that experience in a little bit more personal way than you get with maybe a blog, or even a podcast. I mean, podcast people can hear you and they build that connection, but it's hard to really see and build that relationship. I would talk a lot about investing, stocks, investments, that kind of thing. We talk about kind of my journey making money online and creating those assets. So yeah, I'd love to see people come over and join the community there and really sharing that with me.
Oh man, thank you for coming on the show, man. It's been a pleasure, a wealth of knowledge, and congratulations on the channel, and hopefully continue to grow and grow and grow into that 1,000,000 subscribers.
Excellent.
All right. Join us next time on IBS.
Thanks, Bernie.